Yeah, I like to bring in that human element. I like to, as I said, I want you to feel as if you're on the scene.
Greetings everybody, welcome to the second episode of Focal Point. Today we're featuring Ricardo Makyn, Gleaner, photojournalist, photo sports journalist extraordinaire. Welcome Ricardo, how are you?
Hi, I'm fine. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. Glad to have you here. So, in a nutshell, tell me who is Ricardo? Who is Ricardo Makyn?
Ricardo Makyn is a 37-year-old young man who has two sons. One is 8, one is 1. Who loves photography. I am originally from Spanish Town. I grew up in a community called Robertson. I went to Spanish Town High. And I became a photographer by accident.
By accident?
Yes.
Tell me about that. How does one become a photographer by accident?
Well, why I became a photographer was I left high school in 1996. I really wanted to do electrical installation, electronics. That was really my interest at the time. I knew nothing about photography. Matter of fact, I've never used the camera before that. So I got a summer job at a photo studio called Photo City in Tree at the time. Yeah, and that's where I first got involved with photography. My boss at the time was a gentleman from Hong Kong called Kwak Kay Kong.
Interesting.
Yes, and I used to every day. I used to work as a clerk at the front desk. So every day when I used to go to the door of the studio when he's there shooting, and every time I'm pushing my head in to see what he's doing. And one day he came to me and said, "What you're interested in this?" I said, "Okay, I'm willing to learn." And he gave me the camera one day. He set up the lights, and I started shooting. And within a week, I just fell in love with this thing.
Nice.
Yeah, that's how it started.
Nice.
So,
from your perspective, like who is a photojournalist? For those who don't know.
A photojournalist, the best way I can put it is a storyteller. It's telling stories with your imagery.
And what makes your style of photography different from any other photojournalist or any other photographer out there?
My style is different. I guess it's the angles. I try to always look for interesting angles. I shoot, if you see a lot of my photographs, especially from a journalistic standpoint, I do a lot of wide angle photography. I like to be up close with the subject matter.
I've observed that with your work.
Yeah, I really like to be in there. So I try to make the audience, when they see the photograph, they get a feel of what's really happening.
As we're talking about wide angle, there's something I realized with your shots, in terms of how, so they're wide, yes, but you normally have like I saw a photo of yours where you're shooting a burning car.
Yes.
And when I was thinking about it, I would have just shot the burning car, but the photo that you had submitted was a burning car in the background, and there was someone in a hazard suit, in the foreground here. I realized that's something you like to do.
Yeah, I like to bring in that human element. I like to, as I said, I want you to feel as if you're on the scene. Being on the scene, there are a lot of persons there and so on. So I want to bring in that. I always want to bring in that human element. And a lot of the times too, you do it for scaling in terms of persons have an idea of the magnitude of what's happening.
Okay. So while entering the office, right, and walking through the corridors, I saw a lot of photos with you holding different plaques and being awarded for this and that. Tell me a little about that.
Well, I've been fortunate with doing photography that I've won a few awards. So far I've won 8 Paige awards, 5 for sports, 3 for news photography. And I also have an Inter-America Press Association Award for news photography in 2007.
Nice, congrats.
Yeah, thank you.
That's really good. Sports photography seems to be your main type of, would you consider that photojournalism? Tell me, Why sports photography? Why?
Well, I'm a lover of sports. You know, I really love sports. I love football, I love track and field. Any sports, you know, I just love. I'm a sports enthusiast.
So, tell me about your first event, first sporting event, and how did that happen?
My first sporting event was actually, I was working at the time for the Sunday Herald newspaper. That was in about 1999, I think. It was actually a match at the National Stadium, Jamaica, I think, versus Mexico. So that was my first exposure to really covering a sporting event. And I didn't do that good a job, but it was a start.
So how did you move from working for the Sunday Herald to working for being a big sport photographer for the Gleaner?
Well, firstly, how I got the job at the Gleaner is that I was at the Herald one day, got a phone call, when answered, and you know, it was Rudolph Brown, who was the photo chief at the time from the Gleaner. Said, boy, you know, we really like your work, you know, are you interested in working for us? And at the time, being a young man, I didn't have much responsibility. I probably wasn't even thinking. I said, you know, I'll think about it.
Yeah.
You know, working at a newspaper that comes out once a week compared to a daily, and I told the person I'll think about it. I thought about it for like 2 days. I called them back and said, okay, yeah. So like I stopped working at the Sunday Herald on the Friday, and by the Monday I was at the Gleaner.
Nice.
Yeah.
Rio 2016, but before we even reach Rio 2016, tell me some of the big arenas, some of the big meets that you've been to across the world.
Well, I've been to Commonwealth Games that was held in Scotland. I've been to 3 World Championships. I was in Daegu, I was in China, and I was in Russia, and 2 Olympics.
Okay.
I also covered World Cup Cricket 2007, which was in the Caribbean.
Nice.
Yes.
So let's move on to Rio 2016. What was that like?
It was probably the most difficult sporting event I've ever covered.
Why you say
that? The organization was something that was kind of left to be desired in terms of the facilities, because a lot of the arenas that we shot at weren't necessarily set up to really accommodate photographers, really. So it was a bit more difficult than the other events that I've shot.
And comparing that to previous Olympics or other meets that you've been to?
It was just way more difficult. All right, for example, we normally have what's called a head-on platform, in which you can shoot straight, as it says, straight on in terms of like the races are finishing. And normally when you shoot from the head-on platform at other events, I could easily make my way from there around to the side to get some celebrations. How this was set up in Rio, the head-on platform, you had to go up like 3 stories.
Wow.
You have to go to get the elevators where like, because this is the same elevators that everybody else is using, and you can imagine a packed stadium.
Yes.
And hundreds of persons wanting to move around. So it was very difficult. I've never had that kind of experience before. Normally, for example, like in Daegu or in London or in China, you could easily just make your way off the platform and make your way around the track. This one, you had to go through the elevator. It made it extremely difficult for you to shoot.
So what was it like? Because were you the only Jamaican photographer there?
No.
Who else was there?
I was, Brian Cummins was there also from the Observer.
So you were the only photographer there from the Gleaner. Seeing as how important Rio 2016 was for Jamaica, how did you feel like knowing that, you know, this was probably the last show or last sighting of Usain Bolt, and you know you had Shelly-Ann Fraser there and the newcomers. Tell me about that experience and just photographing them. Did you get any special, you know, access because you're Jamaican and they're Jamaican?
Well, to some extent, but more so prior to the start of the Olympics, because we went up a week before the start of the Olympics. So in terms of, we got us in terms of the Gleaner got exclusive access to the training sessions. And the relationship that we have, for example, because we basically been taking photographs of these athletes for years. From they were in high school until now, they're on the world scene. So, you know, they've gotten used to seeing me and Brian and others, Andre Lowe and reporters, the other reporting team and so on. So we got some exclusive access in terms of, you know, covering the team and so on. So yes, we did have an advantage.
All right, I'm gonna ask the obvious question, or the question that most people like to hear. What kind of gear do you shoot with?
I shoot with Nikon.
Nikon.
I Canon, but I shoot with Nikon.
Okay. And what type of lenses?
Anywhere from a 16 to 35 up to a 600.
600. Okay, interesting.
But most times you'll see me with the 16 to 35, the 24 to 120, and 70 to 200.
All right, so let's go to the 100 meter, which is the most important race at any track and field event. How do you set up for a race like that?
Well, for the 100 meter, for the 100, because it's such a short event, there's not much that you can do if you don't, especially if you don't have other photographers shooting with you or you have a remote system set up. So you try to make sure you get a good head-on position, but at a slight angle, because, well, for example, Usain Bolt. Shooting him over the years, you know, in terms of what he's going to react, you know where he's going to look. So Usain has a tendency, when he's close to the finish line, he's always looking to his left to either see the time that he's doing or to see basically how close his competitors are. So you know that he's going to, as soon as he gets to that line, once he wins, he usually has a reaction. He's either going to hold his hands out, he's either going to beat his chest or something like that. So that's just usually how Usain reacts. Shelly, when she finishes, she usually looks like it's almost like a struggle, like she's fighting. She's always pushing herself forward. Yes, that's her. And similarly, Elaine and Veronica and all of these athletes. So you know how to position yourself just at a slight angle to get around the bend. So as soon as they come through that line, you just get the reaction, which is the most important, part of shooting the event.
So apart from track and field, what other sports you like to cover?
I like to cover football the most.
Football.
Yeah, football is my favorite sport.
And is it any specific league or?
It doesn't matter. It could be 2 5-year-olds. I just love football.
All right. So let's jump back into some photojournalism. You once took a photo of a suicide.
Yes.
And I was speaking to my mentor, Lizzie Brown, about you because I saw some sports photos of you and I was, really impressed. And she's like, so that's all you know about him? I was like, well, that's all I saw. She's like, no, man, I'm going to show you a picture. And she showed me the photo of the suicide. And I found it rather interesting. And it ties back into your style as well. You didn't just take the person being hung, a very graphic, gruesome kind of image. What you did, if I recall it correctly, it was a photo being taken of the suicide. Yeah. So I believe the person was being. Tell me about the shot. And why you chose to do that.
I think it was about 2007. I think it was about 9 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. And there was someone using their cell phone at the time. This was a time when it's not like now where social media is so popular and everybody uses their phone. I found it interesting that this person was there recording the suicide. So I took a photograph of the person's hands, just about right here, and with the cell phone, and I shot like wide open at 2.8, so it would basically blur the background. So you see the figure there, and then you see the thing sharp, the image sharp on the screen. So it was just, for me, it was just telling the story of, I guess preempting what's happening now. Because at that time you never saw persons doing things like that, using their cell phones to record scenes like that, gruesome scenes. Yeah.
I think it was a BlackBerry, or was it?
No, it was actually a Sony Ericsson.
Sony Ericsson.
So I never forget. It was a gray and orange phone. I never forget it.
Way back. Okay, interesting.
That was never published though.
It was never published.
Yes,
so how did I
understandably. You saw it because I posted it on Flickr at the time.
Okay, yes, it was on Flickr.
Personally, I think that's the best photograph I've ever taken.
I think I might agree with you. It was very interesting because it wasn't in your face, but you still got the context of it. Yes. And to me, that was just beautiful. Yeah. It takes a real artist to see something like that, what I mean?
And it wasn't published understandably because we didn't know how the public would react to it at the time. Because this is something that I've never seen before.
It's a very touchy topic, suicide.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, okay. Lastly, I was on your website and reading your bio. and you mentioned the name
Bill Fricks.
Tell me who that person is and what he means to you.
Well, Bill Fricks is regarded as one of the top photographers in the world. He's a Nikon ambassador. He's a Sports Illustrated great. He's one of the greatest photographers of our time. And I met Bill in 2011 in Daegu. I remember I almost got myself into some trouble.
Did you become a fan?
Yeah, immediately I said, hey, Bill, I went over, shook his hand, you know, I asked someone to take a photograph, and we became friends. And I remember while they're shooting, and this is always me, when I shoot, I never like to repeat shots. I never like to do the same thing over. It annoys me. It really annoys me, really. So I always got myself into trouble while shooting, because I remember when Usain Blake won when Bolt fall started, and Usain Blake won the 100. I basically was at an era standing on a wall where I shouldn't be, because this era was right over where there was this almost what you'd call like it's a where we'd walk. There's an underground area that we'd walk around the stadium.
Okay.
So I went and stood up on the ledge, which was a little wall, and the security kept on taking me off, but I was determined that this is the best angle for me to get the shot, because a lot of the other better positions were positions taken up by the big agencies who paid for these positions. So I saw this as the best spot for me. And as a young photographer, you know, I just pushed myself. I wanted to really get a great shot. And I remember because every day I would do that, and every day I would get into trouble with the security. They almost threw me out. And then I remember the 4x1 final, and Bill, because he shot for Sports Illustrated, so he had a spot at the front. And Bill looked around, waved to me and said, "Come here." He called me and said, he said, "All right, as soon as the race starts, just come and stand behind me." I said, "Bill, they're going to try to say, listen, once the race starts, they're not going to move because they don't want to disturb." So I went and stood behind him, and I shot the race with Bolt anchoring us to a world record at the time.
Nice.
And then again, I saw Bill when I was in London, and I don't remember what event we had covered the day, but I was heading to my hotel at the time. He was heading to his hotel, and we met up at a train station. This was like 12 p.m. in the night. And we were there discussing photography for like almost 3 hours. His girlfriend was there with him, and she was there sitting down humbly, not saying anything, not disturbing him or anything. And I remember the last thing he said to me was that, listen, if there comes a day that you lose passion for this craft, you should stop. He says it's a passion that will make you, that will push you, that will make you better, make you achieve more. So he says, don't worry about the money, don't worry about the other thing. Just be passionate about it, because apparently he saw that in me at the time.
So you hear that, guys? Passion. Passion is what drives you. If you're not being driven by passion, just stop. Hear it from the man himself. Stop. Ricardo Makyn, it was a pleasure.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Thank you for watching another episode of Focal Point. If you like what you just watched, remember to like, share, comment, and most of all, to subscribe. Follow me on my different social media handles to find out when the next episode will be out.